Hello and welcome. This is my brand new baritone saxophone. It's a Yanagasawa BW020. I went all the way to Japan just to pick up this beauty. And I got it back from Japan to the United States. And you're probably wondering how I did that. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm going to go over how I got through the airport, how I booked the extra seat because I bought an extra seat for this instrument. I did not check it. And I'll also go over what the customs fees are. So in case you may want to do the same thing I did, this section will be a great resource for you if you're wondering what the fees will be. I'll go over all of that in this video, so let's get started. When I was researching online on how to properly book a seat for my instrument, they all said that I needed to go on the phone and call the airline because the airline had specific codes that it gives to an extra seat or something that's in a seat that's not a person. This seemed all well and good, but the issue was that I wanted to use my points to book this seat. And if I was going to call on the phone to do this, for them to code it properly, I couldn't use my airline points to book the seat on the phone because it wasn't a person that I was booking for. So I had to take matters into my own hands and I had to book it online. So after all my research, I figured out the code that I had to use and the system that I had to use to book this seat properly online to the point where I could actually use my points. Another thing to keep in mind is that not all airlines accept booking an extra seat. So here's the list of airlines that allow extra seats for musical instruments on routes from Japan to the United States. I recommend checking the website for each airline before booking your flight. Okay, so I'm going to go over how I booked the extra seat with American Airlines. I'm using American Airlines in this example because that's the airline I chose to use. You can use other airlines too, but American Airlines is the one I chose to use, so I'm going to go with that. But this same concept should apply to other airlines, other major airlines that you're booking with. If you go to the first name slot here, when you're booking the extra seat for your instrument, there are two codes you can use for the first name slot. The first you can use is EXST. This stands for extra seat, and it's the one that I used. You can also use another code called CBBG, which stands for cabin baggage. Online, if you read about this, they'll tell you that some airlines prefer CBBG, some prefer EXST. I heard both for American Airlines, but I chose to go with EXST and it worked just fine. So both of these codes will work equally well, but I'm going to switch it back to EXST because that's the one I went with ultimately. So you put that in your first name slot, and then you go over here to your last name and you put your last name in the last name slot. So your actual last name. My last name is Helen, so I'm going to put that there. And then on your boarding pass, it will read your last name, Helen, or whatever your last name is, and EXST as your first name for the extra seat. And then down here, this is required. You have to put your date of birth. So I'm just going to make up one here. And then put your gender there. That's required. And then put your country of origin. And then you got your state and all that stuff. So all these are the required fields that they want you to put in, and that's all you need. Just the EXST for a first name, the your actual last name in the last name box, your date of birth, your gender, country, state, and all that stuff. When you go through and try to book this, then you can use your points to book it in the end. And this is why it's nice to do this online if you want your points to be used for the extra seat. Because if you try to do that on the phone, you're going to run into some issues because they're going to say something like, oh, well, it's not a real person, so you can't use your points for it. So there's going to be some issues there. So if you're going to use your points for this, I highly recommend booking it online and using this code. They make it sound like it's some ancient thing where they have to do it themselves, otherwise it's not going to work. But you can do it just fine on your own. It caused no issues for me. So as long as you put EXST or CBBG, you're going to be just fine. So don't worry about it. So that's how you book your extra seat online. One thing that's very important that you need to remember when you're booking a seat for an instrument is that it needs to be booked in a seat that's right by you. This page here shows you a seat map layout of the Boeing 777-200ER. This is the one that I traveled on my flight from Japan to the US. And so I'm just going to show you where to book your seat on a large aircraft like this. By the way, this website is called seatmaps.com, and you can use it to find the seat information for any airline, any aircraft that you want. So if you're wondering about the aircraft you're flying on, you can use this site to find information on it. So the first thing you want to remember is that when you are booking your seats, the window seat is the one you want for your instrument. So for example, I'm going to go over here at 30A. This is a seat that you would want for your instrument. It's right by the window so that if there's an emergency, people aren't tripping over the instrument to get out of the plane. So this is an example of a window seat that you could select. And on this website, you can see that it's a standard seat here and it has all information on it. It has the width down here too, which is really nice. It has how much it reclines. This website is a really great resource for you. So your instrument would go in this 30A, for example, and then you would go in the one right next to it, the middle seat, the 30B. You have to go into the seat right next to your instrument seat. And so it has to be in the middle one, which is 30B in this case. So one thing to keep in mind here too is that you cannot use an exit row to book your seats. So for example, these up here are emergency exit rows. And you can see that if you hover over it like this, you can come down here and you can see that it's an exit row right here. You can't put it in an exit row because people are going to be exiting out this way in the case of an emergency. So you can't put it there. So these are off limits when you're booking your seats. You can't put it in an exit row. But any of these other ones will work as long as your instrument is in a window seat and then you are right next to it in the middle seat. So when you get to the airport, you have to remember that both you and your instruments need to be checked in. That means you're going to have two separate boarding passes. Now, normally you'll be able to check in online before you get to the airport. This will work for you, but it won't work for your instrument. When I tried to check in beforehand online, it would let me check in, but it wouldn't let me check in for my extra seat. So I had to actually do that at the airport. So when I got to the airport, I went to the counter and I checked in through the agent that was there. They checked me in, and then I made sure that they knew that I had an extra seat booked as well. And then they checked that extra seat in for me too. And then when they did that, they wrote extra seat in pen on that boarding pass, and then they circled it so the gate agent wouldn't have any issues passing me through. As for the security checkpoint, the baritone sax will most likely fit through the scanner, but be prepared for the security to manually open the case. Just make sure you're watching what they're doing. All right, I'm here in Narita Airport in Japan. I got the Bari through the first 2 steps of the airport. The first, the baggage check-in, and that was pretty easy. I bought a seat for this instrument, so it was pretty easy. They just marked extra seat on the extra ticket I had, and they checked me in. I couldn't check in online with the extra seat, so they checked me in just fine with that. They just wrote extra seat on the ticket, and then I got through security just fine. The guys at the security asked what it was because it was such a big case, and I just told them it was a saxophone. It was Yanagazawa, and they just hand delivered it to me after it went through the scanner, so it was really great. And now I am here at the gate ready to get on my plane in a couple hours and going to Dallas.
Also, it takes about 15 minutes from the departure.
Overhead bins are reserved for carry-on bags. Place your personal item under the seat in front of you. Now using the blue main boarding lane and boarding one group at a time. American Flight 60 to Dallas Fort Worth. Group 5 customers are welcome to board.
Thank you. いや、everything's good. Yeah.
Both of them?
Yes. 大丈夫。お客さんだけピンすれば。Yes. 大丈夫。Thank you.
Now in Japan, I didn't have any issues going through security. But in Dallas, when I was going up to the gate agent, they told me quickly that I needed to check my instrument. Obviously, because it was a large case. And all I did was show them my extra seat boarding pass. I said I had an extra seat, here's the boarding pass for it. And they okayed me and they said, okay, you're good to go. And then I was able to just pass right through. As soon as you board the plane, make sure you ask the flight attendant for a seatbelt extension. For a bari sax or an instrument as large as a bari sax, like a cello for example, you're going to need a seatbelt extension. So just ask for one as soon as you get on the plane. Also, when you're walking down the aisle on the plane, just be careful, go slow, because it's easy with a case that big to bump into things or people. So just make sure that you're careful when you're walking down that aisle. Once you get to your seat, make sure the bari sax is strapped into the window seat. This is really important. It needs to be in the window seat. Just take the seatbelt extension and you can just strap your bari sax in right there and it'll be fine. I first tried to get my case strapped in so the bottom of the case was hanging over the bottom of the chair, and that worked. The person in front of me was still able to recline somewhat, but I found that it was better if I leaned my case up on the seats so that the wheels on the case on the bottom were actually on the bottom of the chair. This means that the top of the case is going to be protruding above the seat, but it won't bother the people behind it. And it has an added benefit of not bothering the person in front because they can fully recline their seat. So it's better to do it this way. Alright, we made it on the plane. Barry's right here, he's strapped in. All good to go. Made it past the gate attendants and asked for a seat extension. And the wheels are sitting on top of the seat. We tried going down below there too, but that didn't work so well. So we put it on top of the wheels are on the top of the seat. It just hangs over the top part of the seat, but that's okay. All set to go. On our way to Dallas. Regarding the customs fees, this varies by country, so I recommend checking your own country's customs website or ask AI like Gemini or ChatGPT for calculations. I'm from the US, so I'm going to give you an example based on the US customs fee on a $3,000 saxophone as an example purchased from Japan. US Customs splits your purchase into three different brackets. Here's how the math actually works. First, the good news is every US resident gets an $800 duty-free personal exemption. That means that the first $800 of the saxophone's price is completely free. You owe nothing on this portion. Next, Customs gives you a flat personal use rate on the next $1,000 of value. They tax this at just 4%, which adds a flat $40 to your bill. Now for the rest of it. You have $1,200 left over from that $3,000 price tag. This final portion gets a combined rate of 14.9%. That includes the standard 4.9% permanent duty for woodwinds, plus the temporary 10% global surcharge. So 14.9% of 1,200 brings this to 178.8. When you add it all up, your exemption, your flat rate, and your surcharge, your grand total comes out to exactly $218.80. Just make sure you keep your store receipt handy when you go to the goods to declare lane when you land. So if you found this video helpful, hit that subscribe button. Have you ever traveled with a musical instrument before? Have you traveled internationally? I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. If you haven't traveled with a musical instrument before on a plane, is it something you think you would do? Would you buy a plane ticket for it? Or would you risk checking it underneath the plane? Let me know on that as well. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.